Don't build on the river's borrowed land. Why floodplains matter. We often think of a river as simply the water channel we see winding through the landscape. But there is a crucial partner to every river, the floodplain. This flat, low-lying land adjacent to the river channel plays a vital role in the river system, especially in arid regions. In these dry areas, rivers aren't constantly overflowing their banks. Floods might happen every few years or even decades apart. This can lull us into a false sense of security. We see this empty land and think it's prime real estate, ripe for development. But building on a floodplain is a recipe for disaster. Here is why. When a big storm finally hits, and it will with enough time, the amount of rain can be overwhelming. Decades of no major floods can mask the true power of a river. The floodwaters, with nowhere to go due to construction, surge not just over the floodplain but far beyond, causing catastrophic floods. These floods affect not only the floodplain itself but also much wider areas, devastating communities that may not have seen a flood in generations. So next time you see a seemingly empty floodplain, remember it's not unused land. It's a vital part of the river. It's a natural buffer zone, soaking up floodwaters and protecting surrounding areas. Leaving floodplains untouched isn't just about protecting the environment, it's about protecting ourselves and our communities from the destructive power of floods. The hidden heroes of the floodplain. Floodplains aren't just empty fields. They are teeming with natural elements that act like a giant sponge, soaking up massive amounts of runoff during heavy rain. These hidden heroes play a crucial role in smoothing out the passage of floods. Forests, wetlands, and meadows, all common features of a healthy floodplain, have remarkable water holding capacities. Trees, with their extensive root systems, act like tiny dams, slowing down the flow of water into the river. Wetlands, with their saturated soils and diverse vegetation, serve as giant storage areas, holding onto water and releasing it slowly. Even simple meadows with their dense grasses and uneven terrain can significantly reduce the speed and volume of water reaching the river channel. When these natural elements are present in a floodplain, they work together to absorb the initial surge of floodwater. This slows down the peak flow reaching the river, preventing the water from rising too quickly and causing catastrophic damage. Imagine a flood wave rushing down a river. With a healthy floodplain, the wave gets caught by the trees, wetlands, and meadows. It's high and power reduced before it reaches the main channel. This translates to a smoother flood, minimizing the risk of overflowing riverbanks and widespread devastation. Unfortunately, development in floodplains disrupts these natural systems. Replacing these water-absorbing elements with buildings and pavements eliminates the buffering capacity of the floodplain. The result? Faster, more intense floods that overwhelm the river and cause widespread damage. Floodplains are destroyed in urban areas. The problem of floodplain development is especially acute in growing urban areas. As cities expand, there is a constant pressure to find new land for housing, business, and infrastructure. Floodplains, with their seemingly flat and open land, can be tempting targets for developers. But this convenience comes at a steep price. When construction creeps into floodplains, it disrupts the natural flow of floodwaters. Buildings and pavements replace the absorbent land and that would normally soak up excess rain. This constricts the river and forces floodwaters to find new paths, often inundating areas that haven't flooded in living memory. Imagine a neighborhood built on a historical floodplain, a place that has flooded every 50 years for centuries. Decades without a major flood might lead residents to believe they are safe. But when the inevitable deluge arrives, floodwaters can surge through streets and homes, causing widespread devastation in areas that were previously considered far from the river's reach. Protecting ourselves by protecting the floodplain. How can we avoid the dangers of floodplain development and even heal the damage already done? The first step is smart land use planning. Communities need to incorporate flood risk assessments into their planning process. This means identifying floodplains and strictly limiting development in these areas. Floodplain restoration should also be considered. In cases where floodplains have already been developed, restoration efforts can be undertaken. This might involve removing structures from the floodplain, replanting native trees and vegetation, and restoring wetlands. Living with the river in a natural way is necessary. Floodplain setbacks, areas where development is prohibited, can be established along rivers. This creates a buffer zone that allows floodwaters to spread naturally, minimizing damage. Natural infrastructure solutions should be replaced artificial ones. Instead of traditional flood control measures like levees, communities can explore natural solutions that mimic the floodplain's water holding functions. This could involve creating bioswales, rain gardens, and green roofs that capture and store rainwater. By respecting the floodplain and working with nature, we can create communities that are more resilient to floods. It's a win-win situation, protecting our homes and businesses while safeguarding the natural ecosystems that play a vital role in keeping our rivers healthy and our communities safe. In conclusion, floodplains are more than just empty land bordering rivers. They are vital partners in managing floodwaters, especially in arid regions. These natural buffers play a crucial role in absorbing heavy rainfall and preventing catastrophic floods. Unwise development on floodplains disrupts this delicate balance, leading to intense floods that devastate communities for far beyond the river's bank. The good news is that we can prevent this by implementing a smart land use planning, restoring damaged floodplains, and exploring natural infrastructure solutions. By working with nature, not against it, we can build communities that are resilient to floods and ensure the long-term health of our rivers. Remember, protecting the floodplain isn't just about safeguarding the environment. It's about protecting ourselves and our loved ones from the destructive power of floods.